We're learning Hilchos Chametz U'Matzah Gimel Halacha Ches. The Rambam starts off Lefikoch and Bitel Kodim Sheish. Now we're going to learn in this halacha when are you over Bal Yirah, and if you're mechai because of Bal Yirah before the Chag, and with the Chametz which is found in Yontiv, and that you can't burn Chametz and Yontiv, and Chametz Yontiv is Muktzah. So we continue on in Halacha Zayin. The Rambam said if he checked mitchilas shor sheishis ulamalo, from the 6th hour on you cannot be mevatel because it's not in his rishus. Lefiko, therefore, and like bitul kodim sheish, if he didn't nullify it before the 6th hour, so it's no longer his, he can't nullify it. And misheish is ulamalo, and after the 6th hour, motzah chometz shoyadaito olav hoyaboliboy, that he knew about and he thought about it. And he forgot about Bishas HaBir when he was burning it, and he didn't burn it. It was over Shari Loibir because he didn't burn it. Loibitel, it's talking here where he did not nullify it. Veinabitel ato moil loiklum. It's too late to be mevatel. Lefi she'eina b'shusay because it's no longer in his possession. So the Rambam explains that chometz is over on Yirov Yemotze. It's different from chometz of others that didn't belong to him. Moshel Hefka. V'aksiv aso ki iluhu b'shusu l'chayev mishum Yirov Yemotze. So you'll say if it's not his, why should he be chayev? Because Rabbi Eliezer says in Psochim 6b, two things are not in a person's domain, and even so he's liable for them. One is if he dug a hole in Rishus Rabbim, he's liable if anybody gets injured, and the second one is chometz and Pesach, that we learn that chometz, even though it's no longer his, because he has no benefit from it and he can't eat it, still the Torah requires him to be liable for koris chas v'sholom if he left it over, and therefore, whenever he finds it, he has to burn it. Now, is he over before the Chag? Because as we mentioned earlier, the day we're talking from the 6th hour, this is the 14th of Nisan, not the 15th yet. Rae Gann understood that according to the Rambam, he's over by Yeroah even on the 14th. So he says, he disagrees, and he says, Omar Avram. Rae Gann's name was Avram. Maybe the Rambam feels that even though a person is over by Yeroah by Yemotzi, even on the 14th, you're not liable. The Rishivas Yomim Ksiv. Only for 7 days are you liable for La Yeroah Yemotzi, not Erev Pesach. The Maggid Mishnah explains that if the Ravid would have more closely looked into the words of the Rambam, he wouldn't have had a problem, because the Maggid Mishnah sees in the Lashon Ravid Ulai Soivazeh Machaba. The Ravid wasn't sure what the Rambam meant, or when he said Lo Yerov Yemotza. He says maybe. The Maggid Mishnah says, and the Rambam writes in the beginning of the Hilchos Chametz Mitzvah Beis, to get rid of soyer from the 14th. Mitzvah Hey is Shelo Yerov Chametz Kol Shiva. That's only on the 7 days. Mitzvah Vav, that you shouldn't find Chametz in your domain called Shiva. So you see that as far as the Isra Yemotze, it's only the 7 days of Pesach. And he doesn't mention the 14th of Nisan. Now, he only mentions there the mitzvah to get rid of the chometz, as he says in Peirush HaMeir, where he says, it says, that it means the 16th day is when you have to get rid of it. And now we'll go over to the next page. And we must say, when the Rambam says that if he finds it after the 6th hour, and he didn't burn it, and he didn't nullify it, he's over by Yemotzi means when Pesach will come along, but not on the 14th. In the Mishnah Psochim 63a, it says, somebody who slaughters the Pesach on Chometz is oivim b'lo sesa. So Rashi explains there the law of lo sishchat al Chometz da zivchi. And the Mishnah explains that if he didn't slaughter it on the 14th, only on Yom Pesach, for a Korban Pesach, even if he has Chometz, he's not oiva, because the Korban is posel. But if he slaughtered it not for a Pesach, on Pesach, and that means it becomes automatically a shlomim. And a Pesach, not in its time, is a shlomim, and therefore he has chometz. He's chai because of lois shchat, and he's over also on the lav of leirah. And that's how the Bartanura also learns it. So there's a difference. If he makes a korban postal, then he hasn't transgressed this law. But if he didn't make the korban postal, because he made it a shlomim, then he transgresses the law. So Teisus Yontif makes points out that where in the ratio when it says an erev Pesach, if you chef the Pesach on chometz, your oiv b'loi says so bal yirah. Because the lav of lo yirah is not noyeg b'yom Yudalad, only on the 7 days of Pesach, like the Maggid Mishnah. But Rashi writes in Psochem Daled, Chometz eina osam natur b'bal yirah b'achilo ela mishei shoyes. So the Rashi says beferish is osam natur b'bal yirah from the 6th hour. So it would seem that Rashi is of the opinion that on the 14th day of Nisan, from the 6th hour on, you're oivim and natur on lo yirah v'lo yimotza, and that seems to be the loshen in the Bava Kama. The Choik Yaakov clarifies that Rashi seems that Yerovam Bal Yeroba Yemotza, even from the 6th hour of the 14th day, after the 6th hour, because till the 6th hour, the 6th hour is the Rabban, and the 7th hour is the Raisa. The Mogen Avram says that even though on the 14th day from the 6th hour and forward, Chometz is also Ba'anor, still you're not over by Yeroba Yemotze all the time that Pesach hasn't happened, like the Maggid Mishnah says. The Rebbe Yehuda brings the words of the Rambam, the Rebbe in the Maggid Mishnah. He says, "Who am I? I am like dust under their feet of all of them." But he explains the Rambam in a way that's not correct according to my thoughts, because the Rambam meant to say, "B'bal Yeroba Yemotze." And he's talking in the 14th, after the 6 hours until night. Why does he have to mention that he found the chometz from 6 hours and further? He already explains that bittul doesn't help him 6 hours and further. And the Rambam should have written, but if he checked from the 6th hour, he can't nullify it because it's not his. If he didn't nullify it before the 6th hour, and on Pesach he found the chometz, then he's over by Yeroba Yemotze. And since the Rambam says right away he's over, it would seem that he seems to be saying, not like the Bag and Mishnah, but rather that he's also over on by Yeroba even on the 14th. And if, according to the Maggid Mishnah, the Ravid should have complained on the Rambam, and he said maybe this Mechaber is, meaning the Rambam, is of the opinion that you're over from the 6th hour, and it's a mistake, because it says Shivas Yomim, and he doesn't write that. He just says, Enenu Kain, the Shivas Yom Ksiv, meaning there's no question at all. He should have really asked, what are you talking about? The 14th, that can't be at all. Why doesn't he mention that? We'll go to the next page. Therefore, the United Yehuda says the Rambam Shita is the Yisrael by Yeroah and Erev Pesach from the 6th hour. And he brings this is the logic of Yehuda Psochem 28b. And the Isa Achidus Chometz V'Ateros is from 6 hours, even on Yeroah by Yemotze. And only according to Rebbe Shimon, his Chometz also only from the night, and it only starts by Yeroah by Yemotze from the night of Pesach. This is where the Rambam and the Raiva disagree. The Rambam paskins like Rabbi Yehuda before Pesach, as we'll see. The Menater Chometz is also ba'achila from 6 hours and further. Therefore, you're able to by Yeroah by Yemotze from 6 hours and further. And the Raiva is of the opinion that Isa Achilas Chometz is only from the night of Pesach, and therefore Yeroah by Yemotze is only from the night of Pesach. So Rabbi Yehuda explains that what the Maggid Mishnah points out, that the Rambam at the beginning does not mention Lo Yeroah Lo Yemotze regarding the 14th day from the 6th hour and further. He only mentions it regarding the 7 days of Pesach, because the Rambam is going according to his count in the Mina mitzvahs. Therefore, he only counts the mitzvahs. But the fact that we do learn with the Gzeirah Shava, according to the Rambam, that you're liable for by Yeroah by Yemotze even on the 14th is not counted in the Minyan mitzvahs. And he says what Rashi writes in the Mishnah, that the Lav Lo Yerov L'Yamotz is not noig only 7 days, and not from this 14th. And in Psochim, when Bava Kama writes that you're over right away by Yerov L'Yamotz on the afternoon of the 14th. And the Goyin of Mechel Zilban in Sefer Lev Yam explains that Rashi is translating the Mishnah where it says Rab Shimon Oimer. Therefore, Rashi goes that according to Rab Shimon, you're not over on the Yerov by Yamotza from 6 hours. However, in Psochim, he learns that it's going according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, who says that you are over on the Yerov Yamotza even from 6 hours and further. Sharat Tziyun cites this is the Machlokes of Rishonim, and according to Rabbeinu Hananel, from 6 hours and further, you're even by Yerov. And the Yitor also writes that according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Lav L'Yerov is noig from the time that Chametz is also on Erev Pesach after the 6th hour. Rabbi the Goyin Rav Zilba in Lev Yam comes up with a novel approach that according to the Rambam, there is in L'Yerov L'Yamotza 2 types of Isser. One you learn from Noiser, like in Toises, L'Yerov L'Yamotza, that in the Lav of Noiser, you're only over, that once you leave it over, and then you're no longer over. But Chametz, you're over every moment, every hour of Pesach. And therefore, the Rambam says in the Psicha, that the Lav of L'Yerov L'Yamotza, that you're over on Kol Rega, that's only on the 7 days of Pesach. Like it says Shivas Yomim. However, it's by the 14th day of Nisan, he writes he's over by Yerov when he finds the Chametz, because he didn't burn it and he didn't nullify it. And he means to say that the Isur, that of every moment of leaving Chametz, he's not over. If he left Chametz Yudal from after the 7th hour, he's only over from that point on, and therefore, if he doesn't nullify it or he didn't burn it, to tell us that he's over on not to leave Chametz, but he's not over on what was left over every moment. He's over one moment alive, because the forbiddenness to hold Chametz is only something to hold on every second, is only applies to the 7 days of Pesach. And we'll turn the page. With this, we've answered the question of the night of Yehuda, why the Raiva doesn't write on the Rambam, because the Raiva is mesupik, whether he means that he's over on every moment or he's over only on one time for the fact that he didn't do it properly, the B'dika, and he didn't nullify it. Now the Rambam continues. What happens with Chametz that you find on Yom Tov? If you found on Yom Tov Chametz in Motzei B'Yom Tov, Kreifu Olav Kli Ad L'Erev. He has to cover it with a vessel until the evening, until Motzei Yom Tov, because you can't burn it on Yom Tov. We'll see. Mevaroi after Yom Tov. Vim Shal Hegdeshu. If it belongs to Hegdesh, Ein Etzor L'Kreifu Olav Kli. You don't have to separate yourself from it with a Kli. Shakol Portion Mimenu. Everyone separates themselves from Hegdesh. Hegdesh is something that's sanctified, and people knew that he couldn't touch it. But Chametz, you're used to it, therefore you have to cover it. The Maggid Mishnah cites the sources Psochim 6a. Amarav, if you find Chametz in Yom Tov, you put on it a Kli. Amarove, im shal Hegdeshu. If it's from Hegdesh, you don't have to, because you're separated from it anyway. And he adds, the Maggid Mishnah adds that Rambam learned that it's talking about even when he did not nullify the Chametz. Still, he doesn't have to burn it on Yom Tov, nor does he have to take it apart and make it into crumbs and throw it to the wind, but he has to wait until after Yom Tov, because it's muktzah. And others explain that it's only when he nullified it before the time of Issur, when he could still nullify it, and since he's not over every moment, therefore he doesn't have to burn it. But if he did not nullify it, since he's over, as we learned in the previous page, he transgresses every moment, and lo yirmotza, it's permissible for him to burn it or to throw it to the winds on Yom Tov itself to save himself from the issur of chorus every moment. Ein mevar chametz b'Yom Tov. When it says you put on it a kli until the evening, Hagos Maimonides asks a question: why shouldn't he burn it on Yom Tov? Since even if he was mevatel it, because he can burn it where it is. He doesn't have to touch it. We learned in Ksubis of Yehuda Seiva that since it's Havora, once it was permitted, it's permitted any place. You can burn anything. So Agos Maimon says that he is talking about that he nullified the Chametz. He's not even by your Motza, even if you won't burn it. What it says, that you can burn, it doesn't mean not for any purpose. It has to have some purpose. And here, if he wouldn't have nullified it, he could burn it in total. But if he nullified it, he can wait till tomorrow. I guess the Mishnah asks a question. According to the Maggid Mishnah, that it's talking when he didn't nullify it, and it's forbidden to burn it anyway. Why shouldn't he burn it where it is? He's not over on muktzah. And the answer is, when they permitted havora shaloi l'tzorech without need, only when there's some type of usage for the yontiv itself. And we'll go to the next page. And he brings proof that one cannot argue that the power portion of the mitzvahs of a chag is mitzvahs burning. The kaim mitzvahs biur. It should be considered part of the chag. Because Revis Chodshim is a mitzvah asay, and it's not durch yontiv. Even though it's an obligation, and if you leave over, if there's left over from the Korban Pesach, or if there should be other kodshim that were left over, you don't burn them on yontiv. But we learn from that biur chometz is also not durch yontiv. And furthermore, in Ksubis, it says that they permitted only havora when everyone has the same benefit from something like this. Once when they were smoking and they didn't realize smoking was dangerous, you could burn cigarettes because everybody had enjoyment. In other words, anybody who did it. Here, he has no benefit from it, just they left chometz. The fact that chometz and yontav is muktzah. Furthermore, he brings from Tosis, we learn they were talking when he didn't nullify it, and he didn't permit them to do it because you need some aspect of usage is muktzah. Now, Agos Maimonides also had a question. They should burn it in its place. So the Kesef Mishnah asks a question because the Isra Aboner of muktzah will tell him a person that he's chayav koros and by Rae Gann Family, and he answers, Chacham mosu chizik l'devrayim. Yes, if a person was lax, the Chachamim with Bedika, which is the Rabbanon, the Chachamim were very strict with him. As the Mishnah continues to explain that Tosis says, since he sinned, that really he should have to burn it, but the Chachamim forbade him to do so because of muktzah. He's not over on the Rae Gann Family. That even though the Chachamim were not that they didn't want to punish him wantonly, but rather from that moment he's in onus. He can't burn it anymore. And therefore he would not be over by Rae Gann Family, but they didn't require him, they forbade him to move it because of muktzah, and he can't burn it, and therefore he doesn't transgress. Rabbeinu Manoach explains how could he be forbidden to burn it and be liable for Bayirah. He can't burn it on Yontiv because he's over on muktzah when he moves it before he's makayim the mitzvah of tashbisu. And the rule is, says so only if at that moment in time both it corresponds with the time that he's over. But if when he does the lav he hasn't done the assay, we don't say Esed Deuchaloi says. The Torah says, you should take it outside right away, and if it's found on Yontiv, and burn it. And if it's found on Yontiv, there are those who say you should put on it a kli until nightfall and then take it out. But the Yontiv itself, you should not take it out. And certainly, if he was mevatel, there's no Issa D'Oraisa, there's no transgression of the Torah by leaving it. But even if he didn't nullify it, he's over Issa D'Oraisa, he cannot take it out because he cannot burn it. Halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, that ain't be a chometz el scheifa, because halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. There's a disagreement as to whether you can make it into little pieces and get rid of it and be mekayim in the mitzvah of schreifa or not, and you can't burn it on Yontiv. And so is the din Machon Nesher Rebbe on the 14th Benisan. It happened on Shabbos after 5 hours, because he can't take it out to be mekayim biur b'scheifa. but you can flush it down the sewer on Shabbos before the 5th hour. So the Torah brings down that his brother Rabbeinu Yechida writes that you can burn it on Yontif because there's a mitzvah in burning it. And we say, since fire was permitted, it's permitted for anything. And if he didn't nullify it, he should take it out of his reshus and he should burn it. We'll turn the page. The Beis Yosef explains that the Torah and his brothers disagree in what the words of Rav, who says you find chometz in Yontif, you put on it a kli. Now the question is, why should you do that? That some say it's even when he didn't nullify it, it's enough to put a kli on it. And Rabbi Yechil explains only when he nullified it is it enough to put on a kli. When he didn't nullify it, you have to burn it. And he cites this from the Rashi as well, that he learned like Rabbi Yechil and not like the Torah. L'maisel halacha, the Shulchan Aruch paskins. If you find chometz in your house, if it's during the weekdays of Chol HaMoed, you should burn it right away. And the Mishnah Berurah adds you should take it from his reshus, so you shouldn't come to the michshel or eating it before burning it. The Mechaber continues, if it's Yontif, you should put on it a kli until night and burn it. So the Ramah says, because you can't move it on Yontif, and the Mishnah Berurah explains that you should put the cover on it, maybe he'll come to eat it, to separate himself from it. And he says, the Divrei Harivosh, that they're the source of the Divrei Haramah, that if it would be mutter to move it, he should have taken it outside or burnt it, and we wouldn't permit him to leave it in his house by just covering with a kli. But since it's muksa, therefore he has to leave it in place and he has to cover it. The Ramah adds that to burn it in its place it's also, the Mishnah Berurah explains, even if he'll burn it without touching it, because you don't need to it's a burning without reason for the need of the day. And the Mishnah Berurah emphasizes from the Lashon HaShulchan Aruch, we see that even chometz that he didn't nullify, meaning that it became chometz on Yontiv, when it's impossible to nullify it, he's over by Yerah, even so, he has no ta'akona, only to cover with a kli. But many poskim have the opinion that you only cover with a kli the chometz that he nullified before Yontiv, then he's not over by Yerah. It's only since the Rabbanon were mechayev to provide a chometz shebitloi, Chacham required even chometz that was nullified to be burned. Therefore, they told him on Yontiv cover it with a kli, and on the morrow burn it after Yontiv. And we'll go to the next page. But chometz shalei bitloi, chometz that he did not nullify. So of course the Isser Muktzah is pushed away by the lav by Yerah by Yomotzi. Shouldn't be over on the lav by Yerah by Yomotzi. It's mutter to take it out and throw it into the river or to the sewer, or to make it into crumbs and throw it to the wind. And even to burn it would be mutter, according to many poskim. That since Sha'avar was permitted on Yontiv, it's permitted for all aspects. Certainly so, where he doesn't want to be liable for transgressing the day by having chometz. The Magen Avram and the Eliyahu and the Shulchan Aruch Harav and other Achronim write that we go according to the first day up, that even if he did not nullify it, or when chometz became chometz on Yontiv, and he didn't nullify it, because on Yontiv, before it becomes chometz, you can nullify it. Someone's baking matzah, he says, before it becomes chometz, he can nullify it. It's still his. It's only the moment it becomes chometz, it's no longer his. But if he forgot to do that, he bases on it a kli. Still, it depends upon the minig. If the minig is to burn it, then they should keep to their minig. Otherwise, it would seem that you cover it with a clean, you wait till Motzei Yontiv. And we'll learn Amiyat Hashem Halacha Tes in the next shiur.